Another question I had, another thought I had, was as Christians, how should I handle sharing my faith? How should I handle sharing the gospel with others? And I thought of this because we recently, as a church, implemented at the end of services, we all say a prayer together. And it's a salvation prayer that everybody recites. That's what everybody gets saved every week, because that's not how it works. You get saved at one time
Right.
and you're saved. But it's a prayer that we recite at the end of our services so that people who want to receive Jesus have a prayer. They know what they can say.
Hmm.
Not that it's magic words or a magic script, but it's a prayer that can help lead to repentance in that moment of salvation. But as a body, we're reciting it so that we also practice as we go into our lives, as we go into our workplace or around our family, around our friends. We know a prayer that can help lead people to faith as well. So, what do you think? How, as Christians, would you encourage people to live out sharing the gospel and sharing their faith?
Right. Well, one thing I try to do is I try to think through my actions to the best of my ability. Who's watching me, and what if other types of people saw me doing this? And that might be when I'm alone, and that might be when I'm at work, and that might be when I'm at the ballpark or the grocery store. And so it's like, hey, if everybody at church was watching me and I left this shopping cart abandoned in the middle of the parking lot versus walking it back to the cart return, what would the church body think of me? And I think, well, let me represent Jesus well and just go the extra mile and put the cart back in the cart return. Now, that's a very simple thing to do. And I'm not saying that because I put the cart where it belongs, people are going to come to faith in Jesus. But it's that type of behavior where you're making sure, to the best of your ability, you're kind of rising above. You're kind of going forward. And so you try to think through the words that I say, the actions that I do, how are they rubbing off on other people around me? And it can be real. I'm not saying you have to be fake. Be you, but be the you that draws people in, not pushes people away. So the first part of witnessing to folks is not repelling people. And that's why I really struggle with anyone who's standing on a soapbox with a megaphone screaming like, turn or burn, we're all going to hell without Jesus. What they're saying is actually true, but they're repelling everybody away with their technique of sharing the gospel. And I think we should be attracting people into the gospel. It doesn't mean that we're softening the gospel, but there is a way to show them that this makes a difference in your life. I think a great way to witness to people is being lights on, windows open to bring that value back around, and that's sharing your testimony. Sharing your testimony, not just saying, I was at church and I got the feel good bumps on my arm, so I said yes and raised my hand and said the salvation prayer. That's the moment you crossed the line of faith. But your testimony is where you were before Jesus, when you came to faith in Jesus, and what Jesus is doing now in your life now that you're following Jesus. That's your testimony. And so for me, I could go into my addiction and 12-step program and how God has helped me sober up and stay away from alcohol. And now I don't even have the temptation of alcohol in my life anymore. I mean, I walked down one of the aisles at the grocery store the other day, and the bottles of liquor meant so little to me. When I was looking at them, I thought, these might as well be paint cans. Like, I'm so not interested in them. No, that's not everybody's story, but that can be a story. Part of my story can be that feeling of anxiety. Hey, I understand what it's like when you're going through a divorce. You wake up at 3 a.m. in the morning with anxiety and you start thinking, this can't be my life. This has to be a bad movie. This is not what my parents wanted for my life. My teachers wanted for my life. My Sunday school leaders wanted for my life. And now here I am with a train wreck of a life. And I know what that's like. And so when I share that story with a divorced person, it brings them in, right? And then I could tell them, here's what I know. When I was going through the divorce, everything in me wanted to follow culture's way of handling your broken heart, which is to go out and hook up with someone, go get some strange, right? But instead, I decided every day to wake up and just beg God to give me enough love in my love fuel tank, as if it's like a gas tank in your car. Fill me up just enough, God, to get through the day so I don't need to reach out to a coping mechanism. And see what I'm doing there? I'm sharing that I've been broken like you. I'm sharing that I reached out to a living God. I'm sharing that God responded and he gave me what I needed to get through the day. What I am doing is I'm witnessing to someone. And then I can ask them the question like, have you ever tried reaching out to God to fill that love tank to get you through the day so you don't have to go for that coping mechanism? Have you come to faith? Have you said the prayer? And see, now it's an open door because now I'm connecting them in. Now they might not be ready yet, but at least now I've kind of built some bridges in and dropped some seeds.
Yeah, I think when you're talking about the shopping cart or the way you handle interpersonal conversations, I'm reminded in the Old Testament and New Testament of kind of instruction we're given. In Proverbs 3, we're told, in all your ways, acknowledge God and he'll make your path straight. Or in all your ways, submit to God. In all your ways, put God first. So whether it's thinking, what do I do with this shopping cart now that I'm done shopping and it's in the middle of the street? It's not, I'm just going to leave it here. It's like, all right, how can I honor God in this decision? Or as I'm talking to people, how can I honor God? How can I put God first in what I'm saying? I'm going to lean into God's grace in my life and show them that I was a mess and God restored me and gave me a relationship with him. So you're putting God first in that, not just in your big life decisions, but in your little life decisions or the way you talk, you're putting God first. And in the New Testament, we're told to be ready in season and out of season to give a reason for the hope that's in us. And we're told that we need to be ready to talk about what matters most at all times. So when I think of how we can share the gospel with others as a Christian, how do I share the gospel? How do I share God's work in my life? It's really just keeping him at the forefront, keeping him in a position of supremacy in your life where he's always number one. No matter what I'm doing, God is still in charge. If I'm trying to run into the grocery store real quick, I'm not like trying to hide from people, but I'm willing to take time to tell people about how good God is in my life. And I'm willing to always put God first in that.